All right, let's dive right into this. Today, we're investigating a truly fascinating puzzle. How exactly did a seemingly simple sandbox game, one just about punching trees and stacking virtual blocks, manage to completely defy every known rule of the interactive entertainment industry to become a pervasive global phenomenon? Welcome to our explainer on what we're calling the Minecraft anomaly. We're going to look at the hard data, the neurobiology, and the current 2026 ecosystem to figure out exactly what keeps hundreds of millions of people logging in day after day. To really appreciate this, you have to understand that the sheer impossibility of this growth is absolutely staggering. Think about it like this. In the world of digital entertainment, a massive, highly successful product usually has a cultural shelf life of, maybe 24 months? You get rapid user acquisition, then exponential decay. People naturally just move on to the next big thing. But Minecraft? It launched to the retail market way back in 2011. 15 years later, it hasn't decayed at all. Instead, we're seeing this crazy, compounding, intergenerational growth. It's gone from a computationally lightweight independent project to a borderline permanent digital ecosystem. So here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the 15-year statistical anomaly. Then, we'll shatter the demographic myth surrounding the player base. From there, we'll explore its borderless digital ecosystem, dig deep into the psychology of play, and finally, look at how it operates as an ever-evolving modern platform. Let's get started. Okay, Section 1. The 15-year statistical anomaly. Just look at the sheer progression of monthly active users, or MAUs. Back in 2019, the platform was sitting at a very healthy 91 million, but the true inflection point hit in 2020. Obviously, the global pandemic forced a massive digitalization of how we socialize, which triggered a sudden 25% surge in active players. But here is the real anomaly. Once the quarantines ended and the world opened back up, those user numbers didn't drop. It actually retained that completely inflated user base. By early 2026, we're looking at nearly 226 million monthly active users, and they're spending an average of over 11 hours a month logged in. It's fundamentally transitioned from a casual game into a daily digital hangout space. And when you add all the numbers up, the scale is utterly unprecedented. As of 2025, traditional retail sales surpassed 325 million copies, which, by the way, already makes it the highest-selling video game in history. But when you add in these 700 million registered users from the localized, free-to-play Chinese edition, you cross a monumental threshold. 1 billion total unique consumer device installs. Just to put that into perspective, that is roughly 1 in every 8 people on Earth having this installed. Moving right along to Section 2, shattering the demographic myth. Now, if you just read mainstream media analysis, you'd probably assume this massive user base is almost entirely made up of prepubescent kids, right? Well, the data tells a radically different story. The actual calculated average age of an active player in 2026 is 24 years old. We call this the aging up phenomenon. The kids who discovered the software during its absolute peak cultural saturation in the early 2010s, they didn't stop playing. They brought the environment with them into their 20s and 30s, and that's because it's a true open-ended sandbox. A 6-year-old might log in to just stack some basic blocks, but a 26-year-old can log in to program automated functional machinery using complex internal logic circuits. The software literally scales with a user's cognitive maturity. We've also seen a massive shift in gender distribution over the years. Early demographic surveys from around 2011 strongly suggested the user base was overwhelmingly male. But sociologist later came in and proved those early surveys had extreme self-selection bias. Today, global telemetry shows us a near parity. It's about 54% male and 46% female. While early childhood coding programs do still push slightly more young boys toward the software initially, as players age up into their teens and 20s, that gap completely closes. Plus, collaborative play and highly visible female creators across platforms like YouTube and Twitch have totally normalized female participation across the entire ecosystem. Let's move to Section 3, a borderless digital ecosystem. Unlike legacy software that gets totally siloed or stuck on a single piece of proprietary plastic, this is a fully unified cross-play ecosystem. When we look at hardware, mobile devices actually make up the lion's share at 46%, followed by PCs at 32%, and then home consoles at 22%. In Western nations, mobile essentially serves as the primary entry pipeline for younger kids. Over 70% of 3 to 8-year-olds play exclusively on a tablet. But globally, mobile hardware is driving an entirely different kind of expansion. And this brings us to the emerging market pivot. The United States has historically been the epicenter of this community, hosting the highest concentration of multiplayer servers. But the demographic center of gravity is aggressively shifting toward the global south. Because the mobile application runs incredibly well on highly affordable Android smartphones, regions like Brazil and India are seeing just explosive growth. Get this. In just the first quarter of 2025 alone, India added over 8 million newly registered users. It has truly become a borderless, ubiquitous digital commodity.
Which brings us to Section 4, the psychology of play.
So we have to ask the big why. Why do millions of people spend over 11 hours a month doing this? Well, researcher Bailey N. Brashers recently developed something called the Minecraft Experience Scale, and she extracted 5 distinct psychometric typologies of gameplay. Basically, the platform acts as a highly plastic cognitive apparatus that just morphs to fit exactly what your emotional needs are at that moment. Extroverted teenagers use it heavily for social play, treating it as a digital hangout space. Older users might be drawn to the low-stress decompression of creativity, or the highly complex redstone engineering, which literally lets you build working computer circuitry inside the game space. Compared to highly competitive Twitch reaction games, players universally report that this specific environment induces high positive emotion and drastically reduces everyday frustration.
Okay, get ready for a pretty wild neurobiological plot twist. Remember that 15% of the player base, made up of adults aged 30 to 65? A landmark 2021 study by Stark and colleagues gives us a fascinating biological reason why they're sticking around. Placing middle-aged adults in this spatially rich 3D environment acts as what scientists call environmental enrichment. It turns out, engaging in this space for just 30 minutes a day actively stimulates neurogenesis and increases the density of dendrites right within the hippocampus, which is the brain's core memory center. These adults are absolutely not wasting their time. They are actively exercising their cognitive retention and spatial logic. It's like a gym for the hippocampus.
And finally, Section 5, an ever-evolving modern platform.
To understand how this ecosystem is still aggressively alive right now in May 2026, we have to look at its dual engines. On the developer side, they are constantly iterating. The Bedrock 26.20 update literally just dropped, introducing entire new physical mechanics like bouncy sulfur cubes, noxious potent sulfur pools, and some highly requested accessibility features like dynamic closed captions. Meanwhile, parallel to that on the community side, the esports scene is massive. We're currently in Season 6 of the MC Championship, with huge competitive tournaments like Project GeoLab consistently drawing millions of live views across Twitch and YouTube. It's a perfect symbiotic loop. The developers provide the evolving tools, and the community uses them to build the culture. Which really leaves us with one final provocative thought. When you step back and look at the whole picture, the 15-year compounding growth, 1 billion installs worldwide, the aggressive shift toward global emerging markets, the literal neurobiological benefits for adults, and a thriving 2026 esports culture, we really have to ask ourselves, is this software still just a video game? Or has it transcended that label entirely to become a foundational, persistent piece of digital infrastructure for human connection and creativity? It is a fascinating question to ponder. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember to always keep questioning the systems that build our digital world.